Most people think demons only fear light, but the truth is far more terrifying and far more sacred. Demons don't tremble before those who radiate purity. They hide from those who carry the dark codes of sovereignty. They fear the dark chosen ones, not because we are perfect, but because we are unbreakable, because we have walked through the underworld willingly and returned with our power intact. I'm not talking about fictional demons with horns and smoke. I'm talking about energetic parasites, ancient programs, fractured egregores, and sentient frequencies that feed off fear, self-doubt, and spiritual fragmentation. They exist. They've always existed. And they thrive where humans are asleep. But when a dark chosen one awakens, we become a threat to their ecosystem. Not because we chant louder or shine brighter, but because we see them clearly, and we're not afraid to engage them in their own language. We know how to move in shadow. We don't flinch at darkness. We remember that power is not always soft and glowing. Sometimes it's sharp, still, and forged in silence. What makes us dangerous to demons is that we don't run from our wounds. We eat them. We metabolize the very traumas that demons use to control others. While most people try to escape their pain, we turn toward it, dissect it, integrate it. That alchemical process unplugs us from the matrix of fear that these entities feed on. Think about it. If a demon thrives in the vibration of unresolved rage, and you've made rage your teacher, what power does it have over you? If it manipulates shame and you've turned shame into sacred sovereignty, where does it hide? You become a dead-end circuit for their influence, a sealed system. And that's when they panic, because they can't hook into your field anymore. You no longer leak energy. You no longer react. You no longer negotiate with fear. Instead, you observe and you respond with precision, with authority, with a frequency they can't penetrate. So let me ask you something. What pain have you been avoiding that might actually be the key to your spiritual immunity? What if the very emotion you've been trying to purge is the armor your soul has been waiting to wear? Demons fear dark chosen ones because we carry ancient memory. We remember what the world forgot. We remember the old covenants, the forgotten contracts, the sacred codes that were buried under centuries of spiritual suppression. The average person forgets who they are when they're triggered. But we wake up in the trigger. We see the architecture of the attack. We feel the geometry of the psychic assault. And because we're not afraid of our shadow, we can wield it consciously. That's the deepest fear of any parasitic entity, a human who is not only awake, but unshakably seated in their own power, even in the dark, especially in the dark. Because the dark is where these beings expect to rule. But when you enter the dark and you don't cower, when you command the space with stillness, with breath, with full spectrum awareness, they lose control. Their power doesn't come from strength. It comes from secrecy, from staying hidden, from staying unnamed. And when you walk into the dark as a sovereign, you bring language to the unspeakable. You name them. You name the pattern. You name the lie. And in doing so, you collapse the contract. That is power. Not the power of domination. The power of discernment. The power of naming the unseen. But here's the final truth most aren't ready to face. Demons don't just fear your light or your shadow. They fear your integration. They fear your wholeness. Because that's the one thing they can't mimic, can't distort, can't copy. Integration is the death of illusion. And most spiritual people never get there because they're still trying to be only good, only pure, only high vibe. But dark chosen ones, we don't play that game. We honor the full spectrum. We make peace with our anger. We kiss our grief. We sit with our lust, our pride, our hunger, and we ask, what gift do you carry? We don't exile parts of ourselves, we initiate them. And when we do that, we become sovereign systems, whole, energetically contained, free. And that's what makes us untouchable to demonic forces. Because demons don't fear perfection. They fear the one who no longer needs to be perfect. So I ask you right now, what part of yourself have you been taught to exile in the name of being spiritual? And what if reclaiming that part is exactly what will make you unshakable? Why your presence alone destroys what other people pray away. There is a moment in your soul's evolution where you stop needing rituals to protect you and start realizing you are the ritual. Your presence becomes so calibrated, so fully integrated, that you shift the frequency of entire rooms without trying. And that's what demons fear most. Not the sage, not the salt, not the ceremony, but you fully embodied, fully awake, fully seated in your truth. That kind of presence is not learned in books. It is forged in shadow. It is earned through nights when no one saw you cry, through initiations that almost broke your mind, through betrayals that pulled you apart until only your essence remained. And now, when you walk into a space that holds distortion, parasitic energy, or astral manipulation, you don't need to fight. You need only to be. Because your field is no longer open for negotiation. You're not broadcasting unconscious wounds for entities to attach to. You're not leaking energy through people-pleasing or false humility. You exist as a closed circuit of divine intelligence. And that kind of frequency is toxic to any being that feeds on fragmentation. That's why some people suddenly get uncomfortable around you. That's why certain energies flee the moment you speak. It's not personal, it's energetic law. We must understand something most spiritual teachings gloss over. Darkness is not evil. Darkness is primordial intelligence. It is the void, the womb, the stillness before creation. Demonic energies don't own the dark, they hijack it. They mimic it. They distort it into fear and manipulation. And most people fall for the illusion because they've been conditioned to associate darkness with danger. But dark chosen ones, we remember. We remember that the dark is where the seed grows. It's where the soul descends before it rises. It's where the old dies so the new can be born. And because we're not afraid of that space, we move through dimensions that others avoid. That's why demons fear us. We move with authority in their territory. We don't reject the dark. We go deeper than it. And when we arrive in those astral or energetic realms where others would pray for protection, we command the space, not through ego, not through arrogance, but through energetic dominion. We walk in and the frequency bends, not because we're better, but because we're whole. That wholeness is a frequency distortion to them. It's like trying to survive in an environment that no longer supports their code. This is why some of the most powerful spiritual warriors don't look like saints. They look like storm bearers. They laugh too loud. They wear black. They walk like they've been through war, because they have. And they carry authority not because they preach peace, but because they've earned peace through battle. The dark chosen ones don't destroy demons the way others do. We starve them. We disrupt their access points. We break the contracts they rely on by healing the trauma that gave them access in the first place. That's the deepest kind of exorcism, not casting something out, but becoming so whole that nothing foreign can live inside you. And when we carry that into collective spaces, families, communities, lineages, we don't need to say a word. Our presence destabilizes the distortion. Our gaze unmasks the lie. Our breath collapses timelines of illusion. That's why some people lash out at us for no reason. Why others accuse us, ghost us, or try to control us. It's not about you. It's about what your energy awakens in them and what it silences in the unseen. So I'll ask you this. Have you been shrinking your presence because you're afraid of how people or entities will respond to your full embodiment? And if so, what's the cost of that suppression? Because every time you hide your fire, every time you play small, you're not just denying your power, you're feeding the very systems you came here to dismantle. Your presence is sacred technology. It's not too much. It's exactly calibrated to collapse the energies that have kept generations in bondage. But it only works if you own it, fully, fiercely, unapologetically. You don't need to fight. You don't need to prove. You don't even need to speak sometimes. You just need to become the living frequency of truth in a world built on lies. Let that be your rebellion. Let that be your protection. Let that be your legacy. Why the Dark Chosen One's aura triggers collapse in false light systems. To truly understand why demons fear the Dark Chosen Ones, we must go one level deeper into the domain of false light systems. These are not demons in the traditional sense. They are subtler, more insidious. They mask themselves in purity, in love, in spiritual performance. They exist in temples, in self-help books, in gurus who smile too wide while never facing their own shadow. These systems operate under the illusion of ascension, but their core mechanism is repression. They teach us to bypass pain, to escape the body, to chase only the high frequencies while demonizing anything raw, real, or unresolved. And here's the terrifying truth. They are often more dangerous than the obvious darkness, because they pretend to be light, and they keep people trapped in loops of spiritual superiority, shame, and false healing. But when a Dark Chosen One enters the field, something uncontrollable happens. The whole matrix starts to glitch. Our aura, coated with both shadow and light, disrupts the delicate illusion. We don't need to say a word. The energy itself begins to unravel the facade. That's why false light systems fear us. That's why they exclude us, mock us, or try to silence us. Not because we're wrong, but because we carry a frequency they cannot control. When we embody our full spectrum, our aura becomes an energetic mirror, one that reflects unacknowledged truth in everyone around us. And most people aren't ready to see that truth. They've built entire identities around being good, positive, enlightened. They've spiritualized their trauma responses. They've made repression a virtue. So when someone walks in who's done actual shadow work, who has sat in the underworld and made friends with their own rage, grief, sexuality, death, and power, suddenly the room shifts. The masks get uncomfortable. The illusion starts to sweat. That's not ego. That's energetic contrast. Because real integration is magnetic. It doesn't seek approval. It doesn't need to be seen. It simply is. And it destabilizes anything that's built on performance instead of embodiment. That's why your presence causes people to second-guess themselves. That's why certain spiritual spaces subtly push you out. It's not rejection, it's revelation. You are revealing what has been hidden. You are activating codes that expose the counterfeit. And no demon, no false light being, no spiritual bypasser can survive long in the presence of someone who has nothing to hide. This is the final understanding and perhaps the most liberating one. Your forbidden radiance is not here to fit in. It's here to undo illusions, undo oppression, undo spiritual hierarchies that feed on shame and silence. Your radiance doesn't come from being perfect. It comes from being whole, from having walked through your own darkness and refused to let it make you hollow, from having claimed the parts of yourself others were too afraid to touch. That's what makes you chosen. Not because you're better, but because you said yes to what others avoided. And that yes echoes through dimensions. It echoes through timelines. It awakens the ancestors. It disturbs the parasites. It calls the soul tribe home. So when you feel resistance around you, when old systems collapse after you speak, when people ghost you after you simply exist, remember this: your aura is a frequency disruptor. You didn't come here to be palatable. You came to be primordial truth in motion. You came to remind the world what power looks like when it's rooted in shadow and sanctified by light. You are not too much. You are not unsafe. You are the signal that the age of illusion is ending. So I offer you this final question, one that only you can answer. Are you willing to fully embody your forbidden radiance, even if it means being feared by the systems you once tried to belong to? Because the moment you say yes, the war ends. You stop fighting for acceptance. You stop negotiating with your medicine. You become the frequency that ends contracts and awakens codes. That's why demons fear you. That's why they whisper, distract, provoke. Because if you ever fully remember who you are, their game is over. And now you do. Let the world feel your presence. Let illusions fall. Let truth rise. You're not just chosen. You're dangerous to anything that feeds on fear, forgetfulness, or fragmentation. And that is your greatest gift.